Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. We'll start with a bhajan, Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajanaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajanaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajanaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajanaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajanaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajanaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Muna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radhe, Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radhe, Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan, Radhe, Mohan Radha Madan Mohan, Radhe, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Srila Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Shila Guru Deva Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस नित्यलीला प्रविष्ट परिविराजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद अभयचरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शीला प्रभुपाद की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. नामाचार्य शीला ठाकुर हरिदास की जय. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन धाम की जय. ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय. श्री नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय. पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्रम श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय. भक्ति देवी की जय. तुलसी महारानी की जय. गंगा मैया की जय. यमुना मैया की जय. समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. वर्ल्ड वाइड ISKCON की जय. गौर प्रेमानंदी हरे 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 बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. Okay, while we wait for it to show up, we'll do the Mangalacharan. Sorry? Yeah, I'm trying to put it. Or I need to mirror that? Okay. Yes. Okay, that one. Okay, I think it's okay. It was. Is that mine? No, it shows a different thing for me. It shows a different thing for me. Maybe let me try to move this around. Okay, there you go. I think it was on a different screen. So I don't see what is there, okay. Yeah, I don't see what, let me try. Now I'm stuck. I can't. No, I moved it. Oh, okay. I have to go here. No, I can't see that thing. It's not mirroring. Okay, I think I have to adjust to controlling it from there only. Okay, let me do that. Arrangement, I see. Oh, mirror display. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, good. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitanksha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Mancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Today we'll recite this verse, Bhagavad Gita 8:5. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra sanshayah antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra sanshayah antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra sanshayah antakale cha mameva
Kalevaram
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Yat prayati samadbhavam
Yat prayati samadbhavam
Yati nastyatra samsayaha
Yati nastyatra sangshayaha Antakale cha mameva
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Yah prayati samadbhavam
Yaprayati samadbhavam
Yati nastyatra samshaya
Yati nastyatra sangshayaha. Mataji? Antakale cha mameva
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Yah prayati samadbhavam
Yaprayati samadbhavam
Yati nasti yatra samshayah
Yati nasti atra sangshayaha.
Antakale cha mameva
Antakale cha mameva
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Yaprayati samadbhavam
Yaprayati samadbhavam
Yati nasti yatra sanshayah
Yati nastyatra sangshayaha. Antakale cha mameva
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Smaran muktva kalevaram
Yaprayati samadbhavam
Yaprayati samadbhavam
Yati nastyatra samshayah
Yati nastyatra sangshayaha. Antakale, at the end of life. Cha, also. Mam, me. Eva, certainly. Smaran, remembering. Muktva, quitting. Kalevaram, the body. Yaha, he who. Prayati, goes. Saha, he. Mad bhavam, my nature. Yati, achieves. Na, not. Asti, there is. Atra, here. Sangshayaha, doubt. Translation: and whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Please repeat. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Purport by His Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prabhu, you want to read the purport? The mic is there.
In this verse, the importance of Krishna consciousness is stressed. Anyone who quits his body in Krishna consciousness is at once transferred to the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the purest of the pure. Therefore, anyone who is constantly Krishna conscious is also the purest of the pure. The word smaran, remembering, is important. Remembrance of Krishna is not possible for the impure soul who has not practiced Krishna consciousness in devotional service. Therefore, one should practice Krishna consciousness from the very beginning of life. If one wants to achieve success at the end of his life, the process of remembering Krishna is essential. Therefore, one should constantly, incessantly chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be as tolerant as a tree, Tarorapi Sahishnuna. There may be so many impediments for a person who is chanting Hare Krishna. Nonetheless, tolerating all these impediments, one should continue to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, so that at the end of one's life, one can have the full benefit of Krishna consciousness.
Jai. Translation once again. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvasesha Shurnyavadi Paschata Dashatarane. So as we are inching towards the new year, we thought some of these verses will serve as a reminder for prioritizing Krishna as the highest of all our activities in the upcoming year. So, that's required in this material world, because no matter how much we know the philosophy, no matter how much we know the importance of Krishna consciousness, by the material environment, we are prone to forget it. Especially if it's like a slippery slope. When you are climbing a mountain down, you don't like jump. Every step, it looks almost like a flat. That's why you are able to manage without much difficulty. But if you walk after like half an hour or 1 hour, you are like way down, like several meters down. But you don't realize that at each step. So like that, there is constant degradation of our consciousness that happens in the material world just by being here, because everything here is an illusory energy of Krishna, and unless we make a special effort to remember Krishna, by default we are going down. So that's why it's very important to remember Krishna every step, and especially these milestones such as New Year, birthdays, Kartik, Janmashtami, like that. We can always think, okay, what did I do in last Janmashtami or last New Year? What was my level of consciousness? What is my consciousness now? Where am I? Am I going up or going down? Because sometimes it's not easy to see the degradation so easily. But when you look back several months or several years even, we can see whether we have made advancement or are we trying to become complacent and try to not make the effort to remember Krishna as much as we should. So many of the verses we'll be discussing today, you may all know these verses already, but please treat these as reminders. That I was thinking of this mostly for myself. What should I be doing for the new year? And think about this, take stock of our consciousness, and remember how important it is to follow this process of Krishna consciousness. So that's one of the difficulties, is that as in our conditioned nature, we tend to take everything for granted. Even though we know the value, we need to be reminded of it again and again in order to appreciate it. So in this verse, Srila Prabhupada explains how we have to mold our life in such a way that one can remember Krishna throughout the life, because that practice is essential. Sometimes when we practice for a few years or a few decades, we may think, oh, I have done this so many times, right? But we forget how many millions of times actually we have forgotten Krishna, and it's just this lifetime we have started. So generally we don't remember those ratios. So if you compare the millions of lifetimes that we have forgotten Krishna, whatever devotional service we might have done for like 10, 20, 30 years is actually nothing, because just a beginning attempt to remember Krishna. So that's why the degradation is there, because the tendency to forget Krishna at the slightest opportunity is always there because of our conditioning, even though that's not our real nature. Our real nature is to remember Krishna, but because we have forgotten Krishna for so long, we have to make the special effort. And that effort comes in terms of prioritizing our life such that Krishna remains our highest priority year after year, life after life. So, and Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing here that the most easiest process of remembering Krishna is to always chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And immediately Srila Prabhupada brings this point. Lord Chaitanya has advised that one be as tolerant as a tree. tarorapi sahishnuna. So that's the main key here. To go on chanting, one has to be tolerant. Otherwise, one gets provoked by circumstances and tries to solve them in an overly materialistic manner, and then forgets this prime goal. So you may all know that example of that yogi who tried to save his cow pen. So yogi was meditating, and then the rats were chewing his cow pens away. So he thought, let me solve that problem, and he thought, okay, I know what to do. I'll get a cat. And then he got a cat. And then so the cat made sure that the rat was kept away. So his cow pen were saved. So he was able to meditate peacefully. But then now the cat started meowing, and then he realized that it needs milk. Now I need to arrange milk for my cat. So he said, okay, let me get a cow. So when he went and got a cow, and then he was getting the milk and then feeding the cat. The cat was keeping the rat away. Now he had to maintain the cow. He said, I am not able to maintain that myself because I am so busy with my meditation. So let me get a wife. So he got married, and then he got a wife who would maintain the cow, who would maintain the cat, and who would maintain the rat. Who would keep the rat away. So, and then the wife obviously wanted a child, and then it went on like that. And then it was several years later, he realized, what did I do? I could have just tolerated the, pain of not having proper coping and just manage with whatever I had. Now look at where my life is. I hardly have any time for my meditation. So that's the general nature of material world, is to make us busy in convincing that other priorities of life are more important than Krishna. So that's the tendency we need to watch against, and always prioritize Krishna above everything else. So when that that's called Krishna consciousness, is that in every situation I see how is Krishna benefiting from this situation, and be aware of the pitfalls of the material world. And the whole scriptures is all about warning about the dangers of spiritual life, while at the same time helping us to get inspired about the glories of the spiritual world. So we need to have awareness and maintain that precaution, that it's not just the knowledge that's going to save us, it's our actual application and finding that happiness and satisfaction in Krishna consciousness. That's what will keep us strong and make sure we don't degrade into material consciousness. So for that we need to always remember Krishna, and for that we need to practice. So that's why we should never think that I have practiced enough or I've done enough sadhana, now I can relax a little bit. So whenever that tendency comes, then it's a slippery slope, and it's we don't even realize it until it's too late. So that's something we can remember from this verse. And in the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada specifically gives some more comments on this verse. I thought we can read a little bit of those. He actually quotes this verse twice in the this one. Yeah. So, Mahapur Prabhu, you want to read this part of the purport?
From end?
You can start from this part. Yeah.
Next, one may raise the question of how one goes about approaching that abode of the Supreme Lord. Information of this is given in the 8th chapter. It is said there, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nasti atra samshaya. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature, Of this there is no doubt. One who thinks of Krishna at the time of his death goes to Krishna. One must remember the form of Krishna. If he quits his body thinking of this form, he surely approaches the spiritual kingdom. Madbhavam refers to the supreme nature of the Supreme Being. The Supreme Being is Satchidanand Vigraha, that is, his form is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Our present body is not Satchidanand, it is Asat, not Sat. It is not eternal, it is perishable. It is not Chit, full of knowledge, but it is full of ignorance. We have no knowledge of the spiritual kingdom, nor do we even have perfect knowledge of this material world, where there are so many things unknown to us. The body is also Nirananda. Instead of being full of bliss, it is full of misery. All of the miseries we experience in this material world arise from the body. But one who leaves this body thinking of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at once attains a Satchid Anand body.
Continue, yeah.
The process of quitting this body and getting another body in the material world is also organized. A man dies after it has been decided what form of body he will have in the next life. Higher authorities, not the living entity himself, makes this decision. According to our activities in this life, we either rise or sink. This life is a preparation for the next life. If we can prepare, therefore, in this life to get promotion to the kingdom of God, then surely, after quitting this material body, we will attain a spiritual body just like the Lord's.
Yeah. Just a couple of comments on this part. So Srila Prabhupada talks about this nature of this body. Generally, we don't pay attention to these points when our body is healthy. But actually, when we get sick or when we see others suffering due to bodily sickness, these things become such a stark reality. Especially, I was taking care of my father. Rasika and I were gone to India for a couple of months to take care of my father. He had he still has several bodily complications. But at that time you can see how the body is actually such an intricate machine of which we have no control over. So we think we have control over the body, but the parts are all working in such a highly sophisticated manner that we can, when you take all these things into consideration, you can see how it's just operating as a machine, and we have no idea how to fix the machine. We may try this, we may try that. Whatever we are trying is a little bit here and there, but ultimately every medicine we take, every corrective thing we do has a side effect, and we have to account for that. So if one is intelligent, one actually sees all these things happening, then that inspiration comes from why do you have to deal with all this problem? So right now we are thinking the body to be the source of enjoyment. Actually, that's the illusion. But actually the body is a source of so much misery. There is some temporary enjoyment here and there, but that's not what the soul is due. The soul is due much more spiritual enjoyment on an eternal, permanent happiness, as Prabhupada says here, Satchid Ananda. But since we have forgotten that spiritual nature, we are trying to squeeze out whatever little material enjoyment we can get from the body. So that it was a very stark reminder, because the reason is even the doctors themselves don't know fully, because there are certain specialization in doctor. No doctor can claim that I know how the entire body functions. So there are specializations. There is a cardiologist, there is a nephrologist, there is a other specialities. So they only know their area. But sometimes when even in, trying to find the right treatment for my father, we were stumbled at several times, because when there is a certain symptom in the body, no single doctor knows what's going on. So it's so complicated, because it's designed to be that way by Krishna, so that we come to this higher realization that I'm not this body and there is a other spiritual world, That's why Krishna says in the 9th chapter towards the end, Anityam asukam lokam imam prapya bhajasvama. Like having come to this material miserable world, take to devotional service and come to me. So without Krishna giving us these reminders or hints, it would be very hard for us to keep focus on this goal. So Krishna is a loving parent, so he gives us some amount of independence, but at the same time also gives us reminders so that we can come back to him. So that's one of the things I was remembering. And then the next verse here it says, a man dies after it has been decided what form of body he'll give. Higher authorities make this decision. So I was recently reading an article in which somebody was quoting His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. So he said, when somebody is in ICU, so he said, Yamaraj is saying to that person, I see you. So that's why they are in ICU, because they are making decisions what type of body he should be getting. So Yamaraj is saying, I see you, and this person thinking, I'm in ICU, like that. So then Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain the spiritual world here. And then we can continue with the next verse. We'll continue with a couple more verses. Somebody else wants to read? Yeah, please.
The Bhagavad Gita also explains the general principle that makes it possible to enter the spiritual kingdom simply by thinking of the Supreme at the time of death. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajante ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sadatat bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his present body, in his next life he will attain to that state without fail. Now, first we must understand that the material nature is a display of one of the energies of the Supreme Lord. In the Vishnu Puran 6.7.61, the total energies of the Supreme Lord are delineated. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Gyanakya Tatha Para Avidya Karma Samchnagya Tritya Shaktir Ishyate. Supreme Lord has diverse and innumerable energies which are beyond our conception. However, great learned sages or liberated souls have studied these energies and have analyzed them into three parts. All of the energies are of Vishnu Shakti. That is to say that they are different potencies of Lord Vishnu. The first energy is Para, transcendental. Living entities also belong to the superior energy, as has already been explained. The other energies or material energies are in the mode of ignorance. At the time of death, either we can remain in the inferior energy of this material world, or we can transfer to the energy of the spiritual world. So the Bhagavad Gita 8.6 says, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajante ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sadatat bhava bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his present body, in his next life he will attain to that state without fail.
So that's the general principle. So, and the specific application is, if you think of Krishna, you go to Krishna. So Prabhupada is explaining this, and then and then now he comes to the next verse here. Maybe you can read from this part. We can read that. Somebody can read from this.
That is the only way suggested by the Lord, and he guarantees the result. There is no doubt. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yudhyacha mai arpita mano buddhe ma mevasyasi ashamshayah. Therefore, Arjun, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time continue your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Bhagavad Gita 8.7.
Yeah, we can continue that. Yeah.
He does not advise Arjun simply to remember him and give up his occupation. No, the Lord never suggests anything impractical. In this material world, in order to maintain the body, one has to work. Human society is divided according to work into 4 divisions of social order: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. The Brahman class or intelligent class is working in one way. The Kshatriya or administrative class is working in another way. and the mercantile class and the laborers are all tending to their specific duties. In the human society, where one is a laborer, merchant, administrator, or farmer, or even if one belongs to the highest class and is a literary man, or a scientist, or a theologian, he has to work in order to maintain his existence. The Lord therefore tells Arjun that he need not give up his occupation, but while he is engaged in his occupation, he should remember Krishna, Mama Anusmara. If he doesn't practice remembering Krishna while he is struggling for existence, then it will not be possible for him to remember Krishna at the time of death.
Yeah, we'll pause there. We can reflect on this very powerful statement by Srila Prabhupada. If he doesn't practice remembering Krishna while he is struggling for existence, then it will not be possible for him to remember Krishna at the time of death. So, when I was reading it one time, it just struck me like anything. Because whenever material miseries come, we'll think, okay, let me solve that and then think about Krishna, right? But that's not what Krishna is suggesting. When you are going through the miseries, that's when we need to learn to take shelter of Krishna. Because we may be thinking, my life is in such a mess, let me fix it and then come to the temple and then think about Krishna. That's how we normally think, right? Let me take care of this, whatever it is, either health, or we'll say, let me attend to these things, or let me buy this property and make sure my future is settled, and then I'll think about Krishna, or let me make money, or let me get married. So we may have so many priorities which we think are important, and then we think I can think about Krishna only after I have taken care of those. But Srila Prabhupada is very kindly reminding us that when you're struggling for your existence, because if you look at this whole life, actually it's a struggle. We just don't think about it as often to not get demotivated, but actually most of the time we are in a I have to do this mode, right? Rarely we are doing things, okay, I get to do this. So there is a lot of struggle. But how do you make the best use of a bad bargain? And Srila Prabhupada says, is by remembering Krishna and remembering Krishna's instruction and realize the truth in the Bhagavad Gita through such thing. Which means when we are going through these struggles in our life, that is the best opportunity to actually remember Krishna. And if we miss that opportunity, then it's actually going to be even harder to remember Krishna when you are in, when everything is perfect. Because you are relatively peaceful and happy, because you don't have a motivation to remember Krishna at that time. So that's why we need to learn this art of remembering Krishna and the practice of the remembrance of Krishna when we are struggling. So we don't think like, okay, I'll handle that and then think of Krishna. It doesn't work that way. And the other important point here is, if we are not able to remember Krishna during such a small struggle, whether it's like taking care of a house or finances or relationship or job or whatever, if we cannot think of Krishna during such a small struggle, leaving this body is such a painful process. It's the biggest struggle of our life, because all our attachments, all our hopes, all our possessions, everything is taken away from us at that point. So if we cannot practice during a smaller struggle, how are we going to face the bigger struggle? Because so many other things will become our priority at that point. So as was mentioned in the earlier verses, whatever our consciousness has, we have invested our consciousness in, that's where all our attention is going to go to. And if Krishna is not, the major part of that, consciousness, then we are going to get definitely sidetracked. And so every year that we have in our life is, meant to go one step further towards Krishna and further in remembering Krishna. So the entire year is spent in trying to practice Krishna. Any other reflections on this particular point? Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu, for bringing up this topic. It's very relevant to everyone present here. So you are telling, like, it's very difficult to remember about Krishna when you are struggling. But also Krishna says, like, 4 types of people take shelter unto me: Artha Artharthi, Jigyasva and Jnani. And Artha Artharthi, both type of people are actually struggling. Because we saw that in Gajendra, when he was in that situation, at the very last moment he could not fight against the crocodile and he took shelter of Lord Vishnu. And until that point, he tried of his own to get rid of that situation, critical situation. So most often we see that in our practical life, when we are in difficult situation, actually we take shelter of Lord more often. We want something from Him and we become more humble, more in a worshipable mood. But when we are complacent, when we are living happily, we have everything we need, then we forget about Krishna. I think from my perspective, I see, like, then at that time it is very difficult to remember Krishna, to connect with Krishna, or keep on your sadhana. So how we can actually develop that mode, like not only struggling, or how to understand that we are actually struggling, even though we are feeling complacent, we are living happily, but we are not actually happy. How to come to that platform?
Correct. So that's actually a more advanced state than what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say here. Here he's encouraging first to remember Krishna when you are struggling. Only if you do that, then you can even think of remembering Krishna when you are happy. So that's the next level. So Krishna doesn't give us a harder test unless we finish an easier test first. If you look at life, it's always like that. So, even in devotional life, gently as the years go by, we see it's actually because a lot more of our anarthas are revealed. First we think, okay, this is all I need to do, just chant and come to the temple, take prasadam and distribute books, and I can become a pure devotee. Actually, that's true, right? It's as simple as that. But we don't, because our heart has so much anarthas, by the process of performing that, Krishna reveals those anarthas to us so that we can, get rid of them. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it said, right? Shinvatam Sukata Krishna, Punya Shavana Kirtana, Hridyantastohya Badrani, Vidunoti Suhritsatam. So Krishna removes all those unnecessary anarthas from our heart. And then when we have to deal with those in the process of removal, the anartha nivritti process, it will look so painful because it may look we are worse than where we started with. But the thing is, it's all coming. It's like when your room is so dirty, you don't realize it's so dirty. When you start cleaning up, then all the dirt comes. Then you will see, wow, it's really dirty. So it may look dirtier than you started with, but that's okay. That's the process of cleaning up. So when we have higher and higher tests, we can see that those tests actually test our faith in Krishna even more, even in a deeper way. So that's right. So if you have learned to practice Krishna when you are happy, then that's why Kunti Maharani says that famous prayer, right? I have been able to remember only when difficulties, but now everything is peaceful, so it's so hard. So please give me more and more miseries. Right? So that's her thing, because she wants to remember Krishna, and if miseries is the cost I have to pay for that, I don't mind paying that. So that's like the very advanced stage. But for us, but from a practical viewpoint, the best thing is to remember that I could be struggling so much worse now, but by Krishna's mercy, He's just given me everything in a very peaceful manner. So let me give the best years of my life to Krishna when everything is so peaceful. Because sometimes when you struggle, yes, you may be able to remember Krishna, but you may not be able to do much service at that time. Sometimes there will be purification, but there may not be necessarily, we may not be able to do service. So, yeah, one time, I forgot who that person was, but the Mukund Prabhu narrated the story. One time there was a group of book distributors that went, and they had so many difficulty on the way. The van got punctured, and then there was rain, and the tire got stuck, and all these problems. Then he asked the crew, has anybody been praying for purification? He said, and somebody raised his hand and said, okay, don't pray for purification, just pray for service. Because sometimes if you have purification, then you have to go through so much. He said, better focus on service, because that's higher principle. So like that, when everything is peaceful, we have to remember from experience and from practice that Krishna is so kind that he has given me such a good time. So let me make the best use of this time to surrender more and do more service, so that there need not be a misery to remind that I have to surrender to Krishna. So it's like choosing voluntarily. Otherwise, Krishna has to show us in a hard way. That can be our meditation or reminder. Yes. Are there more microphones?
Hare Krishna. Just about this sentence. Just recently I've seen that how person was living this world and how much is like the whole body is shaking and the mind is in so big disturbance. And I was thinking how strong should be faced. So it was not devotee, but how strong should be faced. So in this state of mind and body to remember Krishna. So how you should work during the whole lifetime to be in this situation and being still aware what's going on and just to be prepared for that.
Very nice. Yes, that's another thing we can learn from others. That's actually the first class intelligence, so we don't have to experience, but just by seeing miserable world, we'll always be able to remember our good fortune and use it for Krishna. Any other comments on this point? Yes.
Actually, what Kuladevji was saying, that we remember Krishna during the struggle, I was just thinking that actually during the struggling period, if we think that we have a solution, that time we go into so much passion to fix that struggle that we actually forget. It's the time when we are completely helpless, we know now there is no way. Then we think, oh please help me. But actually sometimes we go into passion mode to fix that struggle, right, that we actually forget Krishna.
Very good point. Yeah, that's very nice point. That's how the earlier Srila Prabhupada was explaining the different energies. That's how Krishna's Maya Shakti works, is to show that you are pretty good, you are as good as Krishna, so that we get that false ego and then try to solve things ourselves. Any other comments?
Similar to what Mataji was saying, that when I was watching my father-in-law going through the troubles, I realized that at that time it's so hard to practice detachment or anything for that matter. So unless we have practiced in our life earlier, it's going to become really hard, even though you understand like this is how I should be. At the later age, when there is misery and death is impending, it's so hard to give up whatever you want to give up. So without practice, it's going to be impossible. That's what I noticed.
Yeah. And don't think that devotees are going to remind you at that time, because when they see you suffering so much, they may say, okay, let them at least become normal, because it's also, it's very hard to, preach to somebody or remind them of Krishna when they're already struggling. It's you feel, it's very hard. You know that they have to be doing this, but it's very hard to, give that message, because it's harder to take also at that time, because there's so much going on in the body and the mind. So that's why it's very important to remember Krishna and be strong, so that, and that is how we mold our life. That priority is there, so we always keep that in mind and align everything with that. So we'll continue this remaining purport. Somebody want to continue? Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Please.
No, actually, I just wanted to share this I'm able to relate everything because I had to see my mother going through the same thing you explained about your father. I had to see my mother, and then at that time, I can relate. Most of the time your mind is thinking of, oh, you're so much emotional, and you have to take care of say the doctor, the medicines, and it's such a struggle, and then the family members pressure. That time I think incessantly chanting the verse that it said, I think that practice helps. Otherwise your mind is so much disturbed. But only the one thing that helped is chanting, because I remember my father, I told him to start chanting, and immediately next day he chanted, and then after some time he said I couldn't have survived this struggle without the chanting. So how much you feel that connection when you chant.
Excellent
Thank
point.
you for bringing that.
Yeah. So we need to make enough advancement to even take help, that only then devotees will help us. Otherwise, if you're not at that level, they may, offer only help at a lower level. So it's so when you have practiced enough, then the test is easier. And maybe we'll finish this remaining paragraph in this purport. Somebody else wants to read from this.
Lord Chaitanya also advises this. He says, Kirtaniya sadaharihi. One should practice chanting the names of the Lord always. The names of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. So Lord Krishna's instructions to Arjuna to remember me, and Lord Chaitanya's instruction to always chant the names of Lord Krishna are the same instruction. There is no difference, because Krishna and Krishna's name are non-different. In the absolute status, there is no difference between reference and referent. Therefore, we have to practice remembering the Lord always, 24 hours a day, by chanting His names and molding our life's activities in such a way that we can remember Him always.
Yeah, that's the main, the last line is so critical. We have to mold our life's activities. We have to make it a priority. We have to make Krishna the highest priority and then mold our lives. Then things will happen. Otherwise, it's not going to happen by default, and everybody has enough things to worry about in material world. So we have to make a really conscious effort to mold our activities and prioritize. So that's something. I was reading some verses from the Prahlad's instructions on this. You can see how Prahlad Maharaj is such an exalted devotee, and you can see his consciousness, how much he prioritized Krishna at such an early age, and then he even instructed his friends. So I thought we can read some of these instructions. It's very, very beautiful reminder. Maybe you can pass around the mic and everyone can read 3 verses each. You can, Sri Kumar Prabhu can start.
Prahlad Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. The human form of life affords one a chance to return home, back to Godhead. Therefore, every living entity, especially in the human form of life, must engage in devotional service to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. This devotional service is natural because Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the most beloved, the master of the soul, and the well-wisher of all other living beings. Prahlad Maharaj continued, my dear friends, born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life, according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress.
Endeavors merely for sense gratification or material happiness through economic development are not to be performed, for they result only in loss of time and energy with no actual profit. If one's endeavors are directed towards Krishna consciousness, one can surely attain the spiritual platform of self-realization. There is no such benefit from engaging oneself in economic development. Therefore, while in material existence, bhavam ashrita, a person fully competent to distinguish wrong from right must endeavor to achieve the highest goal of life as long as the body is stout and strong and is not embarrassed by dwindling. Every human being has a maximum duration of life of 100 years. But for one who cannot control his senses, half of those years are completely lost because at night he sleeps 12 hours, being covered by ignorance. Therefore, such a person has lifetime of only 50 years.
In the tender age of childhood, when everyone is bewildered, one passes 10 years. Similarly, in boyhood, engaged in sporting and playing, one passes another 10 years. In this way, 20 years are wasted. Similarly, in old age, when one is an invalid, unable to perform even material activities, one passes another 20 years wastefully. One whose mind and senses are uncontrolled becomes increasingly attached to a family life because of insatiable lusty desires and very strong illusion. In such a madman's life, the remaining years are also wasted because even during those years, he cannot engage himself in devotional service. What person too attached to a household life due to being unable to control his senses can liberate himself? An attached householder is bound very strongly by ropes of affection for his family, wife, children, and other relatives.
Money is so dear that one conceives of money as being sweeter than honey. Therefore, one who can give up the desire to accumulate money, especially in household life. Thieves, professional servants, soldiers, and merchants try to acquire money even by risking their very dear lives. How can a person who is most affectionate to his family, the core of his heart being always filled with their pictures, give up their association? Specifically, a wife is always very kind and sympathetic and always pleasures her husband in a solitary place. Who could give up the association of such a dear and affectionate wife? Small children talk in broken language, very pleasing to hear, and their affectionate father always thinks of the sweet words. How could he give up their association? One's elderly parents and one's sons and daughters are also very dear. A daughter is especially dear to her father, and while living at her husband's house, she is always in his mind. Who could give up that association? Aside from this, in household affairs, there are many decorated items of household furniture, and there are also animals and servants. Who could give up such comforts? The attached householder is like a silkworm, which weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned, unable to get out. Simply for the satisfaction of two important senses, the genitals and the tongue, one is bound by material condition. How can one escape? One who is too attached cannot understand that he is wasting his valuable life for the maintenance of his family. He also fails to understand that the purpose of human life, a life suitable for realization of the absolute truth, is being imperceptibly spoiled. However, he is very cleverly attentive to seeing that not a single farthing is lost by mismanagement. Thus also, although an attached person in material existence always suffers from threefold miseries, he does not develop a distaste for the way of material existence.
If a person too attached to the duties of family maintenance is unable to control his senses, the core of his heart is immersed in how to accumulate money. Although he knows that one who takes the wealth of others will be punished by the law of the government and by the laws of Yamaraj after death, he continues treating others to acquire money. O my friends, sons of demons, in this material world, even those who are apparently advanced in education have the propensity to consider, this is mine and that is for others. Thus they are always engaged in providing the necessities of life to their families in a limited conception of family life, just like uneducated cats and dogs. They are unable to take to spiritual knowledge. Instead, they are bewildered and overcome by ignorance.
My dear friends, O sons of the demons, it is certain that no one bereft of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has been able to liberate himself from material bondage at any time or in any country. Rather, those bereft of knowledge of the Lord are bounded by material laws. They are factually addicted to sense gratification, and their target is women. Indeed, they are actually playthings in the hands of attractive women. Victimized by such a conception of life, they become surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and thus they are shackled to material bondage. Those who are very much addicted to this conception of life are called demons. Therefore, although you are sons of demons, keep aloof from such persons and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, the origin of all the demigods. Because the ultimate goal for the devotees of Narayan is liberation from the bondage of material existence. My dear sons of demons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, is the original Super Soul, the father of all living entities. Consequently, there are no impediments to pleasing him or worshipping him under any conditions, whether one be a child or an old man. The relationship between the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always a fact, and therefore there is no difficulty in pleasing the Lord.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, who is infallible and indefatigable, is present in different forms of life, from the inert living beings, Sthavara, such as the plants, to Brahma, the foremost created living being. He is also present in the varieties of material creations and in the material elements, the total material energy and the modes of material nature, Sattvaguna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna, as well as the unmanifested material nature and the false ego. Although he is one, he is present everywhere, and he is also the transcendental Super Soul, the cause of all causes, who is present as the observer in the cores of the hearts of all living entities. He is indicated as that which is pervaded and as all-pervading Super Soul, but actually he cannot be indicated. He is changeless and undivided. He is simply perceived as the Supreme Satchitananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Being covered by the curtain of external energy, to the atheist he appears non-existent. Therefore, my dear young friends born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well-wishers.
Nothing is unobtainable for devotees who have satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes, the original source of everything. The Lord is the reservoir of unlimited spiritual qualities. For devotees, therefore, who are transcendental to the modes of material nature, what is the use of following the principles of religion, economic development, sense gratification and liberation, which are all automatically obtainable under the influence of the modes of nature? We devotees always glorify the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore we need not ask for anything in terms of dharma, kama, artha and moksha.
Yeah, I will pause there. So this line is so beautiful. Nothing is unobtainable for devotees who have satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes, the original source of everything. Isn't that wonderful? So I was reminded of how Dheeraj was sharing with me last week about his how he got his visa situation arranged by the Lord. I don't know how many of you know that story. You don't know? Why don't you share that, Dheeraj? I can share, but it's really nice with the details. So it's not your story. It's
I would love to hear from you. Let's go ahead.
Okay, I'll start. You can fill up the gap. So yeah, basically, Dheeraj's H1 visa was running out, and he was trying to find a job. But more important than a job was his desire to stay in ISV and be with the devotees and serve here. So, and he didn't know how to do that, and time was expiring, and other devotees were more anxious, but he was not so anxious. So he was completely dependent on the Lord. Whatever you want, please do it, like that. And even though he tried so many options, there was no way he could get his visa extension, because it expired, and you have to wait for the H1 quota next year to apply. And he was considering some other options, but they weren't practical. And then on the last day of his visa expiry, devotees had already given me a party just in case. Send off party. So, but he wasn't, he was asking why, just in case. So even the party was over, and the last day, he gets a call from one of the colleges saying, we have a special program, like a MBA program that you can enroll in. We can give you a visa status that will allow you to continue to be a student, but also work and stay. And he didn't know about that particular clause at all until then, even though he had tried all the options. Somehow that didn't come at all. And this university is just calling him on the last day that his visa expired, and he had not made any other arrangements to stay here. Can you imagine how, Krishna is taking care of his devotees? I was so touched by that story. And and that arrangement was better than anything else he would have done for himself. So this is the consciousness of the devotees that are working for Krishna. So Krishna also says in the 8th chapter there, in Vedeshu Egeshu Tapassu Chaiva Daneshu Yat Punya Phalam Pratishtam Atyeti Tat Sarvam Idam Veditva Yogi Param Sthanam Upaiti Chadyam. One, by doing all this devotional service, he is not bereft of the results from any other process, such as performing the sacrifices or studying the Vedas or performing austerity or charity. There are so many religious processes you can follow, but a devotee is just by simply serving the Lord, he attains all that benefit and more. So I thought Dheeraj, and he's a living proof of the Lord's mercy that we have here, and that's reminded me of this statement: nothing is unobtainable for devotees who have satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the reason we give the highest priority to Krishna, because by doing that, we automatically take care of everything else. Krishna gives the intelligence. Krishna says, Dadami buddhi yogam tam enamam apyantite. So that's the consciousness of the devotees, and that's we can see that in several prayers. So earlier was so that's like a Kunti praise. Tvaibe ananya vishaya madir madhupate sakrit ratim udvahata dadda gange vogo mudanvati. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forward flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So this is the Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, or undivided attention or focus on the Supreme Lord, through which devotees attain everything that is there to attain. So, and you can see similar prayers by Vritrasura. So at the end of his the battle with Indra, he's just about to leave his body. So this is his prayer and consciousness at the time of his death. He says, O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants, who find shelter only at your lotus feet. O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant, so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, my words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship. So this consciousness is the highest achievement of human life. To have this consciousness, especially when we quit this body, as Krishna was saying, if we are able to practice and mold our life, as Srila Prabhupada was saying earlier, in such a way that day after day, month after month, year after year, we improve on this path and try to attain this consciousness that's exhibited by all these devotees, then that's the highest achievement of our life. And this New Year is a way for us to remember these priorities and to give Krishna the highest priority. And I was going to read another section from the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where there's another aspect of priority. Priority is not just about us achieving, but it's also enabling others to achieve, because that's the real spirit of our movement. Is not just our achievement, but so in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can I'll just summarize it quickly. So this is the section where King Prithu performs horse sacrifices. He set out to perform 100 horse sacrifices as part of his duties as a king for the prosperity of the citizens. But Indra gets tensed, because Indra is known as Shatakratu, one who has performed 100 horse sacrifices, and he doesn't want anybody else to have that title, because it means a danger to his own position. So even though Indra is such an exalted demigod, he comes in the form of a sannyasi and steals the last sacrificial horse for the 100th sacrifice. And then Atri Muni sees this happening, and then he wants Prithu's son to go and get it from him. And when he goes, he sees that Indra is dressed as a sannyasi, so how can I steal from him? So that was his culture. And then he said, no, don't worry about that. He has stolen the horse. He's actually cheating. He's not a sannyasi. He's just pretending to be. He's putting that dress to just cheat you. Just go and get it. And then Indra drops the horse and then runs. And this happens like several times. And then Prithu says, okay, enough is enough. And he's going to kill Indra himself. And at that time, the priests say, you are the performer of the sacrifice. If you go and kill somebody, the sacrifice will not have its benefit. So let us kill him for you. So that was like such an intense thing. And then at that time, when they were about to just invoke Indra and put him in the fire, Lord Brahma comes and speaks his word. Maybe we'll just read just these 3 verses. Mataji, you want to read?
Lord Brahma addressed them thus: My dear sacrificial performers, you cannot kill Indra, the king of heaven. It is not your duty. You should know that Indra is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indeed, he is one of the most powerful assistants of the Personality of Godhead. You are trying to satisfy all the demigods by the performance of this yagna. But you should know that all these demigods are but parts and parcels of Indra, the king of heaven. How then can you kill him in this great sacrifice? In order to make trouble and impede the performance of King Prithu's great sacrifice, King Indra has adopted some means that in the future will destroy the clear path of religious life. I draw your attention to this fact. If you oppose him any further, he will further misuse his power and introduce many other irreligious systems. Let there be only 99 sacrificial performances for Maharaj Prithu. Lord Brahma concluded. Lord Brahma then tuned towards Maharaj Prithu and informed him that since he was thoroughly aware of the path of liberation, what was the use in performing more sacrifices?
Yeah. And so basically he reminded Prithu of a higher principle. So basically Prithu's incarnation was to restore Dharma. And by the process of performing his own service, he was actually inducing Indra indirectly to act in other make way. So it's a very dicey situation. You are doing your service, but that causes agitation to somebody else. So now Brahma is helping him understand you have a higher goal. So since you are higher in consciousness than Indra, why don't you give up and why don't you stop, so that Indra doesn't cause more damage to religion. And anyway, your goal, your higher goal is to introduce religious principles and to restore religion. So you can think of this higher principle in that way. And then Prithu, being such a pious king, he accepted that, and he says he abandoned his eagerness to perform yajnas with great affection and concluded a peace with Indra. So that's also another way of putting Krishna in the center or in the first priority, because it's not about me achieving success, but it's about Krishna being pleased. Krishna, and we can see in the next chapter, in this pastime, Krishna Vishnu appears in front of Prithu, and then he says, "I'm so pleased by your behavior." And then Indra asks for forgiveness. So these are higher levels. So we shouldn't think serving Krishna is just about me achieving, but about enabling others also achieve their priorities and their services to Krishna. At the same time, there is also room for transcendental competition. So this pastime here is not transcendental, because Indra was worried that somebody else may take our position, right? And that's envy. Whereas in transcendental competition, you can have the fun of competing, but without envy. So that's something Srila Prabhupada introduced in ISKCON with the book distribution in so many centers, where different centers report their scores, and then they compete for this, the top book distribution thing. But the idea there is not that we are falsely proud of our own capability, but it is with the devotees do it with that consciousness to actually encourage and glorify Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. So since it's the December month and you're all such stalwart Sankirtan devotees, so I thought of reading from this book, Servant of the Servant, on one of these transcendental competitions that His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj writes about. This is you can see how our movement was in 1975 in the December marathons. This is really a beautiful part of this book. This is actually the last chapter, entitled The Sankirtan Tidal Wave. So there are many sections. I'll try to give the condensed nectar within the last 20 minutes of our session here. So this is the part where there is a competition between different centers, West Coast, East Coast, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj's Radha Damodar Sankirtan party. So at one point, Maharaj says, "When I received my first letter from Srila Prabhupada in many months, it was clear that he too was enjoying the competition." This is Prabhupada's letter. You can see how provocative Prabhupada can be. "My dear Tamal Krishna Das Goswami, please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your letter, undated, and I was very pleased to read the contents. This is Lord Chaitanya's blessing upon you that you are executing his order. Prithiviti Achayata Nagaradigram Sarvata Prachara Haibe Moranam. You are doing this very nicely. I heard that the Western zone distributed more than your Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan parties. Is there a competition between you and the Western zone? That is nice. The BBT says that they are publishing at the speed of my translating, and that you will distribute at the pace of their publishing. That's nice. But still, I am ahead in my translation work." They owe to me now the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I am working on the 7th canto already. I am very pleased that you have held 50 festivals in the colleges. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam and Param Vijayate American Boys. Yes, you are doing very nicely. So many Vaishnavas have taken birth in America. Now America is going to be glorified. So many people are afraid of the American CIA, but now they will welcome Americans as American Vaishnavas. Now maintain your status quo. You are in a very good position. And hear this attentively. To manage a Sankirtan party nicely is more precious than all other activities. That is the verdict of Bhagavad Gita and the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then, Srila Prabhupada says about other things, and then he concludes saying, now it is understood from the report of Rameshwar that the western zone is number 1 and that you are number 2. How is this? I hope this meets you in good health. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And then Maharaj, usually the format of this book is Maharaj writes, he gives letter exchange between him and Srila Prabhupada and then comments on the context of these letters. And he says, if Rameshwar Prabhu was attempting to stimulate competition among book distributors, the cause was now clear. The force behind his newsletters was none other than Srila Prabhupada, who herein revealed that he himself was the most competitive of all. Prabhupada had already defeated all of his godbrothers by printing and distributing more books, establishing more temples, making more devotees, and traveling more miles for preaching than all of them put together. Yet, his appetite for competition was still not satisfied. Now he turned his attention upon us, his disciples. This is so nice. I had boldly written that our Radha Damodar party was distributing his big books at such a terrific rate that I feared that the BBT would not be able to keep us supplied. Hearing of my challenge, Rameshwar Prabhu and his BBT assistants, having just completed the unimaginable task of publishing the full set of Chaitanya Charitamrita in only 2 months' time, were still undaunted. They wrote Srila Prabhupada that they could both keep up with his translating as well as supply our party with as many books as we ordered. So Srila Prabhupada replied, that's nice, but immediately thereafter he shattered our audacity by revealing that our feigned heroism was merely a bluff. Prabhupada's mood brought to mind the great epic battle fought at Kurukshetra, which was full of similar boasts, challenges and competitions. Taking advantage of our chivalrous American spirit, Prabhupada urged us on by himself coming onto the battlefield as if to declare, follow me, I will lead you in the charge. And led us he certainly did. By his own example, Prabhupada was teaching us how to tirelessly perform the Sankirtan Yajna. One statement of Prabhupada's was especially important. To manage a Sankirtan party nicely is more precious than all other activities. Prabhupada was telling me not to deviate my attention to any other service. The mind is fickle. It may create so many alternatives. Prabhupada said, now maintain your status quo, you are in a very good position. By the profuse distribution of his books, I was rendering him the greatest possible service. Nothing else that I could do would be as valuable in his opinion. And it was not only his opinion, but the verdict of the Bhagavad Gita, substantiated by the activities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To write and distribute books was a specific order given to Srila Prabhupada by his Guru Maharaj, and that command he was now in turn giving to me. He had carried out that order even after the disappearance of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Similarly, now after the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada, I still consider this order to me to be the most binding of all those he gave me. Yeah, and then he continues explaining some more here, and then Maharaj goes to LA and recruits 5 Grasa devotees to help with some of the preaching program. And then he says, though 5 of his men had defected to our side without a fight, the LA temple president Tulasidas was determined to humble the Radha Damodar party. Mustering together the entire might of all their 7 temples, the West Coast West Coast unseated us from the coveted first place by setting a new world's record for books distributed by a zone in a single month. Hearing this, Srila Prabhupada remarked, if our Tamal Krishna Goswami is defeated again, his heart will crack. No one was more surprised than I. Tripurari Maharaj and I both agreed that we could not allow this to happen twice. After speaking with all our men, we decided to increase our November book distribution projection by 50%. But the West Coast was equally determined. Seeing the intensity with which the contest was being waged, Rameshwar decided to organize a special transcendental competition at the end of November. In a letter to Srila Prabhupada, he reported the results. Yesterday, Wednesday, November 27, a transcendental competition was held in the US amongst the largest centers for the much coveted title, World Champions of Big Book Distribution. The chief contestants were ISKCON Chicago, including 9 men from the Radha Damodar Party, LA and Atlanta. This day was carefully picked as the day most people travel by plane in the US, one day before the Thanksgiving holiday. And all the book distributors rose very early, chanting all rounds before Mangalarti. After Mangalarti, they took some prasad, had class and were off to the airport by 6 to 6:30 am, not to return until at least 16 to 18 hours later, when all flights were finished. These men had to contend with the usual hostile officials at the airport, police interference, ugly announcements trying to blaspheme us publicly, but despite these harassments, superhuman efforts by the devotees resulted in the most incredible distribution of your books in history. In one day, the men at Chicago, led by Tripurari Maharaj of Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party and Manasutta Prabhu of Chicago, combined with 25 book distributors to sell 2029 big books. In LA, the book distributors led by Gopa Vrindapal and Janaka Rishi Prabhus distributed 1,869 big books. And in Atlanta, the distributors led by Charu Deshna Prabhu distributed 1,518 big books for a combined total of 5,406 big books sold in one day at all these 3 centers. Every few hours, LA would call Chicago or vice versa to find out how many books the opposite side had sold. The atmosphere was saturated with great desire to please you by selling the most books, and the BBT is awarding Chicago Yatra a first-class painting as a transcendental award for out-distributing everyone else. There is no doubt about it, they organize the greatest book distribution in the world. For so many men to stay out for so many hours and sell so many of your books, your divine grace must have empowered them all. Otherwise, it is impossible to sell this many books. No publisher of religious or philosophical books could ever imagine such a thing happening. In each center, all existing records were broken. And there's a nice paragraph here. Rameshwar Prabhu summed up the feelings of all the book distributors by concluding, "Our men are willing to do anything to please you, and all of them have dedicated their whole lives to distributing these books. Our only desire is that you may kindly bless us with greater and greater desire to distribute these books all over the world, until every home has whole libraries of your books. By your divine grace's blessings, we will never stop distributing these books. We are thinking that this is the highest pleasure in all the 3 worlds." But all was not over. 2 days later, on the weekend following Thanksgiving Day, Panchatattva Das, a Radha Damodar Party stalwart, stationed himself at the Atlanta airport, and in nearly 40 hours, with only a few hours off for rest, distributed a world record 481 big books. By the end of the weekend, the BBT tabulated the month's result. Radha Damodar Party had regained their position of first place in the zonal competitions by distributing a record setting of 33,000 big books for the month. We knew, however, that we could not rest upon our laurels. The West Coast zone was more determined than ever before to avenge the defeat. Meeting in LA, their temple president issued a joint letter of challenge, promising that their December book distribution would reach unprecedented heights in the history of ISKCON. How many books would they be distributing? That they would not reveal. Quoting from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, they cited the example of Maharaj Prithu, who possessed great riches like Kuvera, the treasurer of the heavenly planets, yet nobody could reveal Maharaj Prithu's secrets, for they were like the demigod Varunas, who presides over the water, the night, and the western sky. The letter ended with all 7 temple presidents personally affixing their signatures. Everything was pointing to a colossal Sankirtan Christmas marathon. Yeah, and then some more, and then this is like one of the scenes Maharaj is explaining. In the evenings, Vishnujan and I would wait up as late as midnight for our men to return. The East Coast was facing a particularly nasty winter. Struggling for 12 to 14 hours under frigid conditions, our men would come home to be greeted with hot cauliflower pakoras and tomato chutney, personally cooked by the 2 sannyasis. To keep them enlivened throughout the day, I set a telephone beside Vishnujan Maharaj and his harmonium. Anyone in need could dial a bhajan. Hearing the sweet strains of Vishnujana's singing was enough to warm any devotee's heart to protect him against the wintry weather or equally frigid conditioned souls they encountered. For the men traveling throughout the country, Keshav Bharati arranged a similar program. He had gotten one of the first complete sets of the recently published Chaitanya Charitamrita. While managing the accounts or ordering incense, he would keep the new volumes on his desk beside him. Whenever one of the devotees had some problem with their consciousness, he would call, and for 5 to 10 minutes, Keshav Bharati would read to them from the ecstatic pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. While Radha Damodar's devotees performed heroically, their adversaries on the west coast were equally active. In LA alone, 25 to 30 vehicles were engaged daily in ferrying back and forth more than the 100 book distributors. Departments like the BBT, the press, the diorama making, etc. were shut down to maximize the number of devotees going out. Sankirtan lists and maps were made up each night and announced immediately following Mangalarati the next morning. The cooks remained awake all night, cooking for the daily morning feasts at which ecstatic results from the previous day's Sankirtan were read. From his office beside mine, Shrutadeva kept me regularly informed of the West Coast's progress as he received their scores for inclusion in his newsletter. But still there was no clear indication of the overall monthly target they were shooting for. In the hope of gaining further information, I sent Drishtadumna to LA as a spy. But to no avail. Neither would Rameshwar Prabhu divulge any information. Whenever I spoke to him on the telephone, he remained cagey, pleading that he had no time to understand anyone's goals, being fully engaged just keeping everyone supplied with enough books. With our opponents maintaining such a tight veil of secrecy, all that we could do was concentrate on increasing our own Sankirtan. We began to take reports from all our parties twice each week, and whatever excess funds were found, we immediately used for distributing more books. Now I was spending more than 6 hours a day on the telephone, talking with our devotees at the airports, street corners, or from wherever else they would call me across the country. There were so many books to pass out that often the devotees found it difficult to distribute their full quota, and as a result, Sundays became dollar book day. Each of the men would take as many Bhagavatams as they liked, and standing at a busy intersection, would wait for a red light to request the driver of each car to give $1 in exchange for a book. Within a few hours, they distributed 2 to 3 cases of Bhagavatams and Chaitanya Charitamritas. Yeah, and then devotees would dress up as Santa Claus and give out books. So Maharaj mentions about those. And then by Christmas Eve, every temple throughout America had nearly all their devotees out on Sankirtan. Never before had the mood of Sankirtan swept ISKCON so totally. Setting aside the final 6 days leading up to Christmas as a special Sankirtan marathon of the year, devotees went wild, competing to see who could distribute the most books. In this 6-day period, an astounding total of 606,000 books of all varieties were distributed as Lord Chaitanya's mercy literally overflooded America. Leading the individual distributors was Radha Damodar's outstanding devotee Pragosh Prabhu, who distributed 573 big books, or nearly 100 for each day of the marathon. In the 6-day period, devotees from LA, apart from distributing 6,500 big books, also sold 93,000 BTGs. And their counterparts, the devotees in New York, performed no less wonderfully. With their airports closed, they concentrated on distributing Krishna book trilogies, with the result that 40,000 trilogies were distributed in the marathon. Finally, on the first day of the new year, Rameshwar Prabhu revealed the overall results for the month of December. Taking loans, emptying their savings accounts, and employing every conceivable means to scrape together extra money, the West Coast temples combined to send the BBT the largest remittances of all. But the Radha Damodar party was the winner in actual books distributed, with an unprecedented 65,000 big books and 225,000 BTGs distributed in December alone, more than double their own record set the previous month. On that very same day, a letter arrived from Srila Prabhupada, as if His Divine Grace had personally come to offer his congratulations. And this is December 18th, 1975. It's today, right? Today's 18th, right? Yeah. So this is the date on 1975. From Juhu, Bombay, Srila Prabhupada is writing, "My dear Tamalkarsha Maharaj, please accept my blessings. Thank you for your letter, of which I have noted the contents with great pleasure. Your letter is very, very encouraging to me. I do not know how you are selling so many books. There is no instance in history where religious books were sold with such enthusiasm and success. Is there any such history? The Christians have spread their teachings all over the world, and they have only one book. So we have already got 40 big books published in English. Therefore, if we distribute as you are distributing, we cannot even imagine the result. Your program is very nice. Please continue more and more." One may wonder how such incredible preaching activity is possible. Srila Prabhupada describes this phenomenon in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 798-104. This spiritual potency is the essence of the pleasure potency and the eternity potency. By these two potencies, one is empowered with devotional service. Lord Krishna himself or his representative, the unalloyed devotee, can mercifully bestow these combined potencies upon any man. Being thus endowed with such potencies, one can become an unalloyed devotee of the Lord. Anyone favored by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is empowered with this Bhakti Shakti. Thus, the Lord's followers are able to preach Krishna consciousness by divine grace. It was spiritual potency, not material ability or motivation, which was inducing the devotees to push themselves so determinedly. They were receiving direct inspiration, actual empowerment from Lord Krishna himself and his pure devotee Srila Prabhupada. Everything was being done by the pleasure potency of the Lord. There was no need of salaries, bonuses, or any other artificial inducement. Devotees were feeling transcendental ecstasy in performing Sankirtan, and that was in itself more than sufficient reward. While shopping center managers and sales personnel longed for Christmas to be over, the devotees wished that it would never end, that they may go on distributing Prabhupada's books ever increasingly. The pleasure they experienced by distributing Prabhupada's books was incomparable with anything they had ever known in the material world. One devotee dressed in a Santa outfit got a donation from a Salvation Army Santa, who told him, "You guys are the best Santas I've ever seen." He took a Krishna book. Yeah, and so this is pretty much the end of the book. Sankirtan devotee preachers are therefore considered highly advanced servitors of the holy name of the Lord. So that's some inspiration for all of the book distributors. So we can see how Krishna is waiting to give us all this spiritual nectar and the pleasure and satisfaction in devotional service. So it's all awaiting us for our advancement to actually desire entering into this family of Krishna with Srila Prabhupada as our captain. So with that, I'll finish here. If anybody has any comments, you can add. Otherwise, we'll be ready for the Aarti whenever the puja is ready. Maybe is there? They're not here. Yeah. So you can have some questions until they are ready, or comments. Okay. Sure. Any comments? Feeling competitive? Yeah, it's amazing book. You can.
We both part A, the earlier lecture, very instructive, very awakening. As you said, it's something that we know, but we need to realize, remember, refresh our mind. Thank you very much. And we went back to 1975. It felt, as if it was happening. The way you read it, and very inspiring at a very apt time. Thank you, Prabhu. It was a wonderful session.
Thank you, Prabhu. And it's so wonderful that the devotees at ISV and elsewhere are reenacting these past times. Actually, it's amazing how as a movement we are able to keep up with the spirit of book distribution for so many years. Like from 70, it's almost 42 years. So it's all glories to the Sankirtan devotees. All glories to the American boys, as Prabhupada says. Yes, Balimardan Prabhu wants to share something.
Hare Krishna, Govinda Prabhu. It was really ecstatic by hearing the part B, as per my Purpiyari Prabhu saying, because we forgot the competitions nowadays, because ISV is competing within groups from Cupertino to Dublin or so the medium of competition is at least there is no spy, because WhatsApp is sell with the spy. So but that gives selling the books, distributing 2 books, Bhagavatam in Dublin, then Cupertino team is we cannot be less than 2, it should be more than other teams. So it is really definitely very enlivening, and your talk really matches to the current our December marathon. Thank you for bringing the topic. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhu. It's very inspiring.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, please.
Actually, thank you for reading. It was very nice. I was just relating. We are not distributing as many as they are doing. And November, December is the coldest time, and Chicago is like windy city. I'm actually so much inspiration for us to, like when they did it, and when we go, we should also try to do more. And then one more is like when they're calling each other, I was also thinking then when we have 2 teams in SFO, after we complete some few cases, we call, okay, how many have you done?
Amazing. Yeah. It's very nice. I mean, it's these are eternal pastimes of the Lord. So it's amazing how you're all like full time working outside and still managing to do this. That's actually in a different sense is even more amazing to prioritize this, because the weekend is the only time devotees have for their own personal life, and you're all sacrificing that for Krishna. So it's no less, in that sense. But that's the spirit. Everybody does their best capacity, and they can receive that pleasure that Maharaj was talking about. Okay, so we'll finish with Dheeraj's last comment.
What an ecstatic class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for sharing so many deep points. New Year is all about assigning priorities, and you redirected our GPS pointer to the right direction. I think with your and Mataji's example, we see that in your lives, Krishna is always the priority. So thank you for enlightening us. Yesterday was World Enlightenment Day. So very grateful. You shared very beautiful points. I think lecture needs to be reheard multiple times because there were many great reflections. And on my story, as you said, it's not mine but devotee story. But two main points which which are needed to complete is it was all possible by devotees' mercy. And the last day was Radha Ashtami, so without Radharani's grace, things would have not manifested. So devotees and the Lordship's blessings made the magic, whatever, if it was any. Thank you again for sharing the nectar. Please continue to do so.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya, kripasindhubhyasya, patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo.